You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't.
Hello, everyone. Michael Renfro here. I'm the host of 15 Minutes, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode, as always, is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, where we deliver tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. In order to have a successful marketing campaign and make sure that you're getting the best ROI, your firm does need to have the best website and the best content. At Gladiator Law Marketing, we use artificial intelligence combined with machine learning and literally 125 years of combined experience to outperform that competition. To learn more, please go to Gladiator Law Marketing, and that's GLADIATORLAWMARKETING.com. You can also schedule something direct, and if you go there, you can schedule a free consultation, which includes a full analysis and audit of your site. So today's guest is Harold Kestenbaum. He is with us today live, as always, from his, I believe you're from your home, or are you in the office today?
No, I'm working from home.
Working from home. So tell us, Harold, where in the world are you, and what practice area do you focus mostly on?
I am in Melville, New York, and I specialize in franchise law. I've been doing that for 45 plus years.
45 plus years. So you've seen a lot of businesses go, and a lot of them make it. And I would imagine you've probably seen a few not make it along your way as well, right?
You bet. I've seen some very good successes and some many failures. That's for sure.
Right. So let me ask you, because that's a pretty niche area. It's not just, business or one type. It's very niche to a specific type of individual. How did you get started in that with that focus of franchisors?
Purely by accident. In the third job out of law school was with a small firm in Manhattan, and he was basically a securities attorney. But he had one client that was a public company, but also franchised.
Right.
And he basically said to me, "Look, I don't have time to learn about franchising. I want you to learn about it." In 1977, I couldn't click on Google and find out everything. I had to actually read books.
Yeah, I was about to say that sounds like many hours at the local library or the local school that had a legal library of such.
That's exactly right. So for 4 years, all I did was learn about what franchising was. I went to all the seminars that were out there.
Right.
And in 1981, I really liked this. I like dealing with entrepreneurs. And I said, so long, and I went out on my own.
Well, I just want to bring up too, by the way, just to remind the folks, at that time, there was no such thing, and nobody ever heard of a freaking webinar. So it was all in-face seminars. Which meant driving and a lot of hotel stays and a lot of other type of things. So
that's right. The internet didn't exist. None of this existed. So
right.
It was the old-fashioned read a book.
Yep. Now, obviously, you got me. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have me beat a little bit. I understand that, but I was still born in 72. And so, we saw the beginning of computers, but they were like, in fact, it was all elective. All computer courses throughout my entire regular, what is it? What do we call it? The first 12 years.
Middle school?
No, the first 12 years up through high school, all the way up through high school. That, any computer course was an elective. Put it that way. Any typing was an elective. They were never mandatory, and now all those things are literally it's part of the way of life. So taking you back even further, let me ask you that. So before law school, what gave you the idea of becoming a lawyer, becoming an attorney?
Initially, I wanted to be a teacher, and then somebody told me that those who can do and those who can't teach.
Right.
So I said, you know what? Let me give it a shot. So I went to law school.
And that was how it happened. Which law school did you go to, if you don't mind me asking?
I went to the University of Richmond in Richmond, Virginia.
Nice. And that was good. That was back in the 70s then when you went.
Yeah, I graduated in
77, right?
No, I graduated in 75, actually.
75. Gotcha. So let's go back there. And I already got a little bit, I don't want to go back that far. I want to go back to the early days of you going out on your own. So when you first opened up your firm, what were those early days like?
They were difficult, but in 1981, New York State passed franchise registration law, which really became, that really jump-started my practice, because now every company that wanted a franchise in New York had to get registered in New York State.
Oh, okay.
So it created a great...
Created a business for you.
Yeah, a lot.
That's perfect timing, Harold.
It was very good timing. That's correct. And one day, in those days, again, there was no such thing as social media.
Right.
The only way
it was all through the grapevine. It was all through the grapevine and through your personal networks.
That and also the Wall Street Journal on Thursday and the Sunday Times. Those were the only two places you could find franchise offers or trade shows.
Right.
Which still exist, but not like they used to be.
Right.
So one day I pick up the Wall Street Journal and I see an ad run by a company called Sbarro, which I knew about because you go to a mall and there's Sbarro.
Right.
And the New York State, the statute had a provision that if you run an ad, you had to put a legend on the bottom. They didn't do that. So I wrote a letter to the president of the company. I said, by the way, you ran an ad, it was illegal.
Right. You could get popped for this in the future.
Right. And I got a call a week later. The president of the company, Mario Sbarro, would like to meet with you. So I drove out from Manhattan.
That's a hell of a jump start, sir.
So my office was in Manhattan. I drove out to Melville, where I happen to be now, and I met with Mario and his two brothers, and we had a great conversation. And they said, we don't like paying by the hour because that's what the law firm in Manhattan was doing. So they said to me, what could you do for us? So they went out of the room, and I'm thinking, what could I do for them? So they came back in, and they said, what do you think? I said, look, what if I tell you I will bill you X dollars a month, no matter how much work I do, you'll never get a bill beyond that. And they said, you're hired. So in 1982, this is 1982.
You came up with the flat fee monthly.
That's correct. And I said, how about $750 a month? Now, 1982, $750.
$750. That was, that's closer to like $5,000 today.
That's right. So for $750, I did all their franchise work. And
nice.
They liked me so much that when they went public 4 years later, they asked me to sit on the board. And I wound up sitting on the board for 22 years.
I was going to say, is that how you, it just seems like, is that how you ended up getting out to Melville as far as being out there?
One thing.
Just one thing. Okay. I was just curious, maybe, got so close that you.
No, it was happenstance. But
no, I get it.
So the representation of Sbarro being on the board opened the door.
Oh, yeah.
To a lot of restaurant clients coming to me. And it just, snowballed after that. And it just kept growing. And then I met a guy back in 2001. His name is Dan Rowe. He had a company called Fransmart. We started working together, and he brought me a potential client called Five Guys, which in those days had like 4 company locations, and it became like the next superstar. So things just continued to grow and grow, and I wrote a book on how to franchise your business.
Yeah, I know you did. I was going to ask you, what is the title of that since we're here?
It's called So You Want to Franchise Your Business, and it's on Amazon. In its second printing, I wish they asked me to do a third, but they haven't. That's okay.
Hey, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Yeah. It'll happen. It might just, you never know when.
It's done well for me. When people say, what do you know about franchising? Let's read my book. That opens the door.
You can't get honestly, Harold, as a salesman, and I know that most attorneys get this. I feel like attorneys are nothing more than some of the highest paid salespeople on the planet. And, whenever you have a tool that you can literally say, somebody asks you, you're like, why don't you read my book on my masterfulness of that specific topic? And then, you tell me. That's pretty good. I like that.
It's a great marketing tool. You're 100% right.
It's lovely.
Great for me. Yep.
Do you think that that's what gave you, you talked about those things. So there's Sbarro, and then there's, say the name of them again, something Dine, Fine Dine. What was it?
Five Guys.
Oh, Five Guys. Five Guys. Okay, Five Guys. Okay. So Five Guys, obviously another, and I get that's a big home run. and then the book. Which one of those do you think gave you the most traction and produced the most results for you?
Being on the board of Sbarro meant a lot. Public company did very well, then sold out to private equity. That and the book meant a lot.
I was going to say that I bet the book is on your top, if not your top, definitely tied with it. Just because.
Yeah, it's right up there. When somebody asked, "What's your experience?" and I said, "I've been doing it 45 years. I also wrote a book."
When did you write that book, by the way? What year did that come out?
2008.
2008. Okay. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
That sets you apart from just any practitioner.
Right. That's not just an asterisk. That's more of a, what do we say when you have something really good for your resume? There's something there. It's a trophy. It really is more of a trophy, versus just an asterisk. So no, that is very.
It served its purpose quite well, and I'm pleased. I used to do trade shows, so I bring the book with me to trade shows. It really, oh, you wrote a book? Yeah, I wrote a book. It worked out really well. It was a great marketing vehicle.
Have you considered writing another one? And I only ask because I'm sure that in 15 years, a lot of what has been, or is that what you're hoping will be a third print that you'll be able to do?
No, you know what? I've thought about second book. I just haven't had the time. People think, "Are you retired?" I said, "No, I'm going to be 73 next week, but I'm not retired, and I work as hard as I did 10 years ago." So
I can tell that when I talked to you the other day.
Right. So, I really would like to write another book. There's a sequel to that book. Like, what do you do now that you're a franchise? Once you've done it.
Oh yeah, that would be a great follow-up. Because I'm assuming you still take care of them all the way through there.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I can certainly write another book based on that. So,
that's why. I kind of. I don't get me wrong, but there's plenty of stuff you could do other than just a revision of that book.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. No question.
Who do you think that are you? And there may not be one, but what would you say would be the? I hear restaurants, so I'm guessing that is. But would you say that's your number one still, as far as an industry focus or a vertical would be restaurants?
It is. I'd say 60% of my practice over the years has been.
There's a book.
Restaurants. Yeah.
Don't mess with all the other stuff. Do you want to franchise your restaurant? Like that's the.
I've done many different ones. I've done chiropractors and dentists. It runs the gamut. Home cleaning, all over the place. But restaurants predominantly.
The home cleaning. Sorry, that's cool, because isn't that almost 100% home based? Not only the company, but every employee or every franchisee is or franchisor is home based.
Home base is very popular, and you know what? In this economy, and even during the recession in 2008, home base was really great because it costs less to get in. You don't have to find the location. It works out very well. Home base franchises do very well.
Yeah, it's funny because the company I work for, we've been around 10 years in January, and from day one they were remote. So it was kind of funny when the whole world was kind of, how do you say, stumbling as well as scrambling to be from home. We were like, it's really not that hard, folks. You just need to know what you're doing. It's simpler than having to worry about get in the car, fight traffic, have to have breakfast at some point between there and work. There's just my day is so much more relaxed and mentally.
It's changed me because at one point I was thinking maybe I would slow down, but when I started working from home,
it allowed you to do that.
It was like an injection of energy. I get up in the morning, I come downstairs to my office where I am now, and I don't have to go anywhere.
I never lost weight ever. I was 275 at my heaviest, and I worked jobs where I had to go into work, had a desk, and I got up from that desk and was very active. I was always the pacer as a salesperson. It wasn't until I fully went working from home that I actually ended up losing like 75 pounds. I got a standing desk. That had something to do with it, but it was a lot easier to change all the habits of drinking water all day versus Coke, cutting out a lot of the coffee, like all those little things that you take for granted that are just there. And so it's not as easy to quit them when you're, when everybody else is still having a cigarette or everybody else is still having a coffee.
Absolutely. You go out to lunch, you go to a restaurant, you eat a lot of, absolutely. I eat very little during the day.
Yeah, and there's more money saved, by the way.
Oh, that's right.
all the lunch money that I saved.
How about dry cleaning?
Oh yeah, exactly. The list really goes. Quite frankly, haircuts. I got one the other day. You saw me before, but I let my hair go a lot more now when I'm at home. Like, why? It doesn't really bother me. So
up until 2019, I was basically a solo with a pretty big staff. And then I was at a trade show in 2019, and I met two guys who also did franchising. They're a lot younger than I was and am, and I knew who they were, and we got to talking, and they asked me, how long are you going to do this for? And I said, I don't know, but at some point in time, I'm going to slow down. So they said, we should talk. So I had a consultant working with me on transitioning as a senior lawyer. So we wound up making a deal in May of 2019 where I merged my practice with their practice. And they're in Philly, I'm in New York. Worked out great. They're great guys, and the firm has worked out great. Spadea Lignana, and I'm a partner, and I love what I do. Now all I do is marketing. I don't do the paperwork anymore. It's great.
No, you're the, for lack of a better, you're the, I don't want to say spokesman, although that is it, but the
rainmaker.
Well, not even, yeah, you could say rain, but you're the poster child, like literally, because they can, like, look at who we have that is going to look at any franchisor, keynote, whatever. There's so many words that I could use for, but I know you get what I'm saying.
I mean, they were only doing this for like 8 years. I was doing it for 42.
For 30 plus, right? You'd already been in it for, 42. Jeez.
I mean, I added instant credibility to a firm that was just starting to grow, and probably would have taken years to get where they are now as a result of me being there for 3 years.
Well, I always, how do you say, my biggest thing in life, quite frankly, Harold, is FR, everything happens for a reason. And to me, every time I talk to one of you folks, and it doesn't matter if it's a man, woman, old, young, not always attorneys too. I talk to people who are in the law industry, right, but aren't actually an attorney. And it's funny because you hear it every time you talk to them. I mean, like, everything has lined up for you, and it wasn't like you sat there and planned that stuff out to work out the way that it did. It's lined up because it sounds like you have been true to yourself and true to the practice, which I think is important. And with that, let me ask you, being true to the practice and starting your own practice before you partnered up, what would you say was the biggest challenge that you learned to overcome in that?
One of the things that as a solo, managing the office and managing a staff of 5 paralegals and doing the work, it spreads you out very thinly.
Right.
And that was always a challenge for me over the years. Since the merger, I don't have that responsibility anymore.
Right.
And it's quite a relief, actually.
Yeah, being the poster boy is a lot less stressful, I would imagine, because you really just need to talk when somebody wants to, if they want to pick your brain or just talk to the legend, if you will. And I mean that truly. I mean, like, you almost have as many years as I've been walking this earth. So, I'm 50 and you've been doing this 45, and you've been an attorney for almost 50. So, I'm born in 72. So, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, in 72, I was just in law school. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say? I'm guessing this is the book, but I just want to get confirmation. Is that your proudest moment, your number one career highlight?
Yeah, I think so. Not everybody writes books. Look, I'm not a novelist. Like, I'm not like,
right.
Like
Stephen King
John Grisham.
Right,
I don't put out a book a year. So writing a book and
was a huge
practicing law at the same time, it was a challenge, and I had a great co-writer. And that's probably my greatest. I would agree.
I only thought that maybe this merger might have been a close one, because it sounds like it has given you everything that you've wanted freedom-wise, and then the same notoriety that you already had. In fact, to me, by being there, just quite frankly, and I'm sure that these guys get it too, but you're more a keynote or a trophy by being a part of this company than being just a solo guy.
Yeah, I've become a mentor to them, which
Right.
really they appreciate. You know, they need a questionnaire, they go to the old man. I don't mind, that's fine.
I'm already an old man too, dude. I mean, I came to terms with that when I got 4 boys and my youngest one is 8. I just kept going. Don't ask me why. I wanted to stop, but I remarried, so she wanted kids.
That's okay.
Yeah, it happens.
I've got 5 grandsons. I know what it's like.
Oh, those are coming, man. Be quiet. Stop, Harold. Those are coming. What are some of your daily rituals that you find most important? You know, like, and I'm talking about just a typical day, a typical Harold day. What would you say is something that you have to do?
What's interesting is even when I was going into the office every day, I'd be up like 5 or 5:30. I get up at 5:30 now, but now I go downstairs and work out. I'm on my computer. I mean, I'm working and I'm working out. I have a gym in the office that I'm sitting in. Part of it is a gym and part of it is my office. Right, exactly. I've got that on the other side of the computer, and so it's great. With the pandemic, we stopped going to the gym.
Right.
So we wound up doing it at home. So I got so used to it. It's terrific. So I go upstairs, I eat breakfast, take a shower, I'm back down on my computer. I don't have to get in my car. I don't have to fight traffic. I don't have to do any of that. It's wonderful.
I know. You know, people. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's absolutely terrific.
People joke about it, but quite frankly, one of the biggest benefits is that I don't have to worry about how I'm dressed. If I'm so comfortable that I just want to sit around in some boxers and a t-shirt or just boxers or whatever, as long as I'm not on a visual call, it doesn't matter because, and I used to be the one, by the way, that when we went to the office, I couldn't stand sales positions, mind you. Attorney is a different thing, Harold, and I get that. But as a salesman, when they would want to make me wear a tie or a suit, I'm like, I don't need, in fact, I told him, I'm like, you're honestly not looking at this from a psychological standpoint. If you want your salesman to be at his best or her best, let them dress as comfortably, be as comfortable as they can, because they're going to feel good about themselves as best they can. And that's going to come out on the phone or on the floor or however, your sales is. But, having them all, ducked up in a penguin suit just to make phone calls all day, I never understood the logic in it.
I agree. And the pandemic also changed everybody's mindset.
Yes, it literally smacked everybody with the realities of what actually works now. And it's cheaper.
Oh, absolutely.
You can't even touch the overhead. It doesn't matter if you're paying per seat, you're still going to pay less per employee if they're doing it from their seat at home. And my gosh, we get to really bang the government here, Harold, because everybody gets that space to write off on taxes now at home, legitimately.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I only wear a suit when I go to a wedding or bar mitzvah. I don't wear a suit. It's only time.
Here's a fun one. So what I'm looking for is like a quirk or strange habit, something that even a hobby, something that most people that know Harold don't know about.
It's funny. One of the questions, what would I have done if I didn't go into law? I really wanted to be a sports agent. So I'm really into sports, and I watch. And
you wanted to represent them, right? Be the deal maker.
That's right. And right now, I even have the President's Cup on TV. And that's the other good thing about working from home. I'm watching television while I'm talking to you. So it's really great. I love it. So
if there was a major golf going on, trust me, it would be on right now too, because it is Thursday, which means it's day one.
But day one of the President's Cup.
But my father said the same thing to me. He gave me crap, and I was like, Dad, I've gotten to the point where I really just have time for the majors anymore. If I try to do anything.
The Ryder Cup and President's Cup, I enjoy. I like match play.
I might start giving the President's Cup a try. My favorite obviously the Riders. I do love that. It's every 2 years. But I'm also a big fan of the Players Championship. That one, I really feel like they should just go ahead and call it truly the 5th major, because to the guys playing, it's probably more important to some of them than some of the majors they play in, quite frankly. And I think the President Cup, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't that become quite dear like the Riders Cup to the guys playing, like in the sense that they really want to win that? It's one of the ones they circle every year.
Yeah, they do. And, it's the opposite year of the Ryder Cup. So every 2 years.
Oh, I didn't know that it was every 2 years.
Every 2 years, yeah. Yeah.
I did not even know. Okay, I'm gonna put it on then. You and my dad, you sold me. You got me. Fair enough.
But other than that, not really. I love playing with my grandsons. I'm
5, right?
5, ranging from 15 down to 6 months.
Oh my goodness.
Big range.
Oh yeah, that's a. I have a friend that's his baby girl's about to be a year and a half, and it's funny. It's his first girl, and I even said to him, I was like, "Man, I know everybody says this, man, but really, really listen to me. Cherish them. Do not let these moments while they're young slip away, because one day they're not going to live there anymore, and you're not going to see them, and you're going to be worried about them." And you're going to think about these, everybody does the same thing and you can't regret it, but everybody does the same thing. I wish I'd spent more time with my kids.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, I get it. How many kids do you have total? Just kids?
I have 2. I have a boy and a girl. My daughter has 3 sons. My son has 2.
Yeah. I have to share this with you only because you have the 5. I was oldest of 5 and the 4 below me were all sisters. So the good Lord literally said, you know what, you're going to have nothing boys. So I got twin boys right out of the gate. Then from the second marriage, I got 2 more boys. And now I actually have a 5th one that calls me father for the last 4 or 5 years. That's one of their best friends that moved from Florida to Colorado with us as a family and lived with us. So right now, as it is, I've got 5 boys of my own that call me father. So
that's great.
Yeah. That's perfect. God did not give me a little girl, though. Quite frankly, if you knew my past, then you would know why God was like, yeah, you don't need to have, you just need to be a dad. I'd be in jail right now if I had had a little girl. Here's an easy one. Where are you from? Where'd you originally grow up and what was it like? And I really actually want to hear this one because you've got some time in the game.
I was born in the Bronx and I was really raised in Queens. I spent most of my life in Queens. And then we got married. We lived in Virginia, and then we moved to Queens, and then we moved to Long Island and lived in Jericho for almost 30 years.
But you were born in 52?
No, 49.
49. Sorry, I was thinking I added you to my mom's age. My father's a year younger than you, 48, or a year older than you. What was it like? How long did you stay in Queens before you left as a child?
We lived in Queens from 1958 until I got married. Until I got married, which was 1973.
Wow, what was that? Honestly, you saw a lot of, excuse my French, but you saw a lot of really crazy shit go down living there at that time in New York.
Well, the Vietnam War was going. I mean, I went to Queens College, and we marched on the expressway, Long Island Expressway, and we shut it down. I mean, I had, fairly long hair at the time and mustache. And, things were different.
It's a different time.
I wouldn't exactly say I was a hippie, but I was a pretty liberal guy, and it was different in those days. And luckily, absolutely. I had a high number, so I didn't get drafted.
My father was already in the Navy, so I think at the time he ended up going to not Naval Academy, but he went into something which kept him out of active service, but and same with my uncle. But
to give you maybe the Coast Guard?
No, they were both Navy. I was going to tell you what the real kicker is, that my grandfather, Captain John Norton Renfro, was one of the few survivors of the USS California at Pearl Harbor.
Oh, really? Wow.
And he ended up becoming a captain himself. And by the time his 2 boys were in, I know what happened. He did not want his boys to go. And even though they were serving and all that, he's a captain. He has the strings and the ability. I'm just telling you. Instead, my father ended up doing I got a picture right here of the old man. Check that out. He was one of the original guys in the deep sea with the big helmets. He was a guinea pig. Basically, Harold, my father was a guinea pig because it was all new technology for them when they were doing it. And, he told me just recently so you're not supposed to go past 120 with scuba. I believe it's 120. And he did a dive in his first year down to 150. Wow. And his what do they call them? not captain, but sergeant. There's a word for it that I'm missing because it's a Navy thing. But the guy above him was like, "This is what we're going to do, Mr. Renfro. And we're not supposed to go past 120, but we got to do it." And sure enough, he did. And one of the greatest story I can share from my father, just sorry, I know I went off, but he got to be involved in a salvage, not rescue, because everybody died. It was Nixon's chopper, and Nixon had just been dropped off when this thing went down, killing all 4 passengers on board.
Really?
But he had to go, and it was kept secret. One of the things he had to do at the time was swear to secrecy. They had to scratch all the presidential logos and off chopper so it could be transported after they got it out of the. It was crazy. He just told me that story recently. I was like, "Wow, Pappy, I had no idea." Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, colleague-wise, who do you think you respect the most in the industry? Who would you call a mentor, and what would you say there's their best advice?
It's funny. It's not even an American. Actually, I have a very close friend in Canada. His name is Ned Levitt, who I've known for 30 years, who has been a mentor for me over the years, and a very close friend. We've been good. We've been colleagues for 30 years, and he's a good friend, and I consider him to be
more than a mentor. Then,
yeah, for sure.
Is there one piece of advice that has stuck with you from him over the years?
You know what? There's a lot.
Yeah, the one thing, these are never easy questions on this.
No, that's not an easy question because I've been doing it for so long.
If you want to name a couple, feel free. If you feel free, man, I'm fine.
One thing is to have patience, because a lot of these companies that franchise, they want to do things, and you got to try to rein them in, and you got to have some patience, because a lot of times they want to just run off and do whatever they want to do, and you got to.
And they don't really know. Yeah.
They don't really know. They don't have a clue. So yeah, that's very important. And in my practice over the years, you got to do that, because they think they have the greatest thing since sliced bread, and they think they can sell 100 franchises in a week, and they can't. And they got to understand what the reality is.
Right. What is that going to? Let's talk about the delivery of that.
You got to go slow. You got to go slow. Rome wasn't built in a day. You crawl before you can run.
Yes. I 100% agree with that. It's funny because I did 2 interviews today, and Gina Campanelli is the other woman I was talking to, and she's young. She's I think in her 30s is what I want to say, maybe mid 30s. But she's a business. She does businesses, but she specializes in startups in the health industry, in the health field. And it's funny because. What was I going to say? We were talking about how when you start a business, it's literally creating a new entity. It's and people don't take that for granted, but it is a new person, really. It's why it gets a same number of digits that our social security number is when we start a business, because you're literally starting something that's treated in the eyes of the law as its own entity. And when you do franchise now, that entity is having children.
That's basically true. You're correct.
Yeah, and there's
analogy.
It truly is, and what I find, how do I say it? Just like being a parent, not every parent is going to be a great one, and not every parent is going to be a horrible one. Period. Some of them are going to really get what they have to do, and some of them are just going to do it without a care in the world, with all caution to the wind, and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be a parent." So I imagine you probably deal with both scenarios on both ends of the spectrum.
All the time.
Yeah. What's your favorite podcast, or do you have one?
I don't really.
So mine.
Yours, sure.
What about favorite? I know you probably have maybe 2 or 3 of these actually, but what's your favorite conference? And my question to you is it legal or is it franchise related? Because I imagine you go to both.
Yeah, franchise. One is the ABA Forum, which is every year in the fall, and the other is the International Franchise Association Convention, which is in February. Those are the only 2 I ever go to.
But I bet you at this point probably don't miss them, do you?
No, because of the pandemic, I haven't gone to either one of them. But I will I'm going to go to the one in Las Vegas in February.
Nice. So here's the last question. In what you do throughout the day, what do you think would be your number one tool? And if it's a piece of software, that's fine. But what would you say is the one tool that you really need to do your day well?
Well, the easy answer is my computer, but in the last 2 years, Zoom has been really important.
What's the word? I want to say detrimental, really. I mean, I can't imagine what folks would have done without Zoom.
I mean, I'm meeting people who I would never have met in person before when I was practicing.
Absolutely.
International, I do a lot of international work. I'm on Zoom I was with somebody in Great Britain today. I was with somebody from Norway a few months ago. It's
Same
really
here.
kind of amazing. Zoom has really been able to do that.
It's kind of funny because I just having this conversation with a colleague, and he's a much younger fellow. He's like 27, 28, but he even said it to me first. It's amazing how Microsoft really dropped the ball there when they owned Skype, because Zoom is nothing more than Skype, except they didn't take the opportunity to go, hey, almost all of you already have this installed. You got it like 10 years ago.
They made it very difficult. I never used Skype. It was too hard.
You know how much they paid for that Bumble F? $26 billion, Harold, they paid for Skype, and they have not, I promise you, gotten their return on it.
No, they haven't.
There's no way.
Nope.
No way. What's funny is two of their worst purchases, because they also LinkedIn was 26. I'm sorry, LinkedIn was 26 billion, which I don't believe that it was a good purchase, but I think that they again are dropping the ball on a lot of things. It was $8.5 billion that they paid for Skype back in like 2007 or something like that. But still, they tried to package it and put it with their Office, which didn't make sense because you have Teams, which does the same thing. So I get the Office suite, and now I got to pick, do I want Microsoft Teams or Skype? I think most people are going to go with Teams because they just got a Microsoft product. So why wouldn't you go with the inherent one?
Right.
So it's kind of funny. Well, listen, Harold, I've really appreciated talking to you. I had a great conversation. I wish you all the well. I'm very impressed with what you did and what you have done and what you clearly still have left in you. From talking to you, I can't imagine you're going to quit before you're 80, bro.
Well, as long as I'm healthy, I'm going to keep doing it. And I appreciate it. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Me too. I will say this. I feel like you. As long as these work and this works and I can still see or at least hear, quite frankly, I can't imagine retirement. I really don't. And maybe that's just a different day or a different mindset, but I see retired folks who are truly retired. They're always unhappy. Work is part of what keeps us out of our head.
I would go nuts. I could not.
Oh my God. Yeah, I would. You took the words. I would literally go nuts. So, hey, thanks a lot for being here. Have a wonderful week. Have a better weekend. And maybe we'll come back and revisit you again in a year or two.
Be happy to do that. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks a lot, Harold. Have a great day.
Oh.
Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.